Hello, everyone. Welcome to the conversation today. And today we are going to have a very exciting conversation. And this conversation is going to be on a very topical topic. But before we kickstart, welcome to the Mindset Spot, hosted by me, myself, Richard Munang, and my co host, Daniel Afumbom Munang. Daniel, how are you?
Hi, so I'm great and it's great to be back and I'm really excited to delve into this topic real versus virtual and we will unmask social media in this episode.
Excellent. This is really good. And there is some good news that is coming with a pre-book release, which is going to be an opportunity to also have that conversation as we move forward. But today we are going to discuss real versus virtual on masking social media. And the reality is that for those of you who are joining in today, today's episode is titled Real versus Virtual on Masking Social Media. In an era where digital platforms dominate, it becomes imperative to discern the truth behind the glittering of social media. And the question then becomes why? Because as the wise one said, we have two lives, and the second begins when we realize we only have one. What does this mean? This poignant reminder serves as our beacon today as we dive into the essence of social media beyond the dazzling display of perfection. So the question then becomes, why must we handle this? Well, social media, as we all know, is a vibrant, marketable place. Yes, it is a marketplace of ideas and perceptions, often presented as a skewed reality, what I call a skewed version of reality. It's a rim where highlights outshine the ordinary, leading many down a spiral of comparison and sometimes even dissatisfaction. So, as Albert Einstein once said, he remarked that reality is merely an illusion. That's what he said. Reality is merely an illusion. So, albeit a very persistent one, reality is merely an illusion. And so, this illusion, if unchecked, can distort our understanding of success and value, urging us to chase shadows rather than substance. And that is why we're having this conversation today. So, Afu, as we start off, so the illusion of perfection on social media is rampant. And so the question then becomes, how does social media portray perfection, or the portrayal of perfection affects our perception of reality? Over.
Yeah, so I think this is a really good point and we've kind of touched on it during our former sessions, but going into it today is very interesting because it does um change a reality of things because if we see so many people appearing to be quote unquote successful, we may feel like we're behind. But in reality, social media is an opportunity for people to post the best version of themselves, whether it's true or not. So, in order for us to understand ourselves, we need to understand the reality of or not so real around us, which includes social media.
Yeah, but the point is then that if you look at social media, social media across Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, WhatsApp, etc., X, as it's fondly called, which was formerly called Twitter, and the list goes on. The point then becomes that all these social media platforms, brimming with curated snapshots of success and luxury, can significantly impact the perception of reality. And it's already impacting, especially that of young people. And so the digital distortion that we see is leading to a phenomenon known as the comparison trap. And that comparison trap, we are seeing it in reality, where individuals measure their own lives against the idealized lives of others, often resulting in dissatisfaction and a skewed sense of self worth. And this is very dangerous because we need to remember, as Theodore Roosevelt once said, comparison is the theft of joy. That's what Theodore Roosevelt said. Comparison is the theft of joy. To counteract this, it's crucial, therefore, to cultivate a mindset for that matter, that appreciates the beauty of one's own journey, acknowledging that every highlight on reels Every highlight on Instagram, every highlight on TikTok, every 3-4 minutes of pictures and videos on social media has behind it the sense challenges. It's not the truth most of the time. Do you agree?
Yeah, I 100% agree. This is a really interesting point because comparison really is the thief of joy, and
Except for joy, yeah.
social media inherently, whether we are aware or not, enables there to be a lot of comparison. Like, for example, you can say this person is my age and she's already, for example, wrote 8 books and I'm here doing nothing. Like, then it really makes an individual feel bad about themselves. But in reality, we have to have digital literacy to understand that not everything we see on social media is 110% true.
Excellent. Very good point. And I think for those of you who are watching, please, if you want to join, you can join. If you want to join, you can join and watch and contribute your ideas live on the screen. So I've shared the link. If you click on that link, you will be able to join us live on screen. But that said, this discussion for those of you who are just joining us is about real versus virtual on masking social media. I decided that myself and my co-host talk about this today because social media is a marketplace. It can be used as a marketplace of solutions. And so the question then becomes, how can we pivot our approach to social media from superficial browsing to seeking real solutions? What do you think of what needs to be done rather than this comparison, the theft of joy, as Theodore Roosevelt once said, the comparison that is taking away the joy of young men and women, thinking that reality is actually what they see on social media, which is not the truth. How do we then pivot this mentality away from self seeking to marketing solutions and ideas rather than tearing down one another? Because there is also another aspect where public figures and so called influencers, in quote, whatever that means, use this space sometimes to bring what is called in pidgin English beef. Why? With intent to draft traffic to their site, sometimes, not always. And that then somehow end up making young people to think that it's okay to throw dirty linear in the public, which is a problem. What says you?
Yeah, that's a really good point because digital literacy isn't only about understanding what's real and what's fake, but it's also the way you present yourself on social media. And and we also need to understand that there is a digital footprint that exists and that's very real. So
Right.
by people, especially in the continent, but not only limited to the continent across the world, I think that digital footprint is something that should be people should be very vocal about, because if you are airing your entire life on the internet and some parts of your life as it's going to be isn't going to be so glamorous, your employers, your future peers, colleagues will all see that, and sometimes it can end negatively, and most times it ends up negative.
Very good point, because the reality, as you talk about social media footprint, digital footprint, I think we will keep talking about this till the kingdom come, as they say, because treating social media as a marketplace for solutions rather than a platform for passive consumption requires a deliberate shift in perspective. And whatever thing you leave out there stays there forever, forever. Even if you delete it, you don't delete it from the server. So that is the thing. So your footprint can still be traced, even though what you deleted, you think you deleted it, you only deleted it from the superficial space. But inside that server where Facebook have, your information is still there. What does this mean? It means that we must focus on following individuals and even organizations that offer insight and solutions to real world problems, to the problems you face yourself. Follow people who inspire you, because inspiration is what I call the biggest gap that the world and Africa needs today. Inspiration is very, very important, that somebody can listen and get inspired and do something. We underestimate it. These are aspects that money cannot buy. And therefore, each of you who are listening to me today and listening to our full, engage with content that enriches your understanding. And that's why we do this, because we want to inspire you as you also inspire us. So engage with content that enriches your understanding and contributes to your personal and professional growth. As Mahatma Gandhi once said, he said, be the change you wish to see in the world. And this applies to everybody. Apply this by seeking art and sharing content that inspires, especially one that inspires change and offer tangible solutions. That is it. So, Afu, let's move now to the aspect of the value of real world achievement over virtual appearances. It's a very serious aspect because what we see, the true measure of an individual's worth lies not just in their appearance, in their online persona, but in their real world contributions and achievements. When this achievement is not high degrees, PhDs, no. What do you stand for? If your name is to be mentioned, what will it be about? And so the question of becomes, why should we value real world solutions rather than just online persona?
Because this is a really good point brought up, but to quickly answer that question, I think the main reason we should value real world solutions is because they're tangible. And that's something
About
that,
that, they're tangible. Excellent. Thank you. So before you continue, that is a very good point. I wanted to underline that they're tangible. I'll come back to it. A lazy, fire up, fire.
yeah, so thanks for the encouragement. So I think that they're very tangible in the sense that if, let's say, I have this study guide and it's marked up, this is a tangible example of like studying. But let's say I go on social media saying I'm studying so hard, everybody congratulate me. That's not tangible because at the end of the day, I'm not really gaining anything from that. But this paper is tangible. But me saying I have this paper without even proof of it is not a tangible example of me studying. So
Right.
not only using the studying example with other examples, for example, you say you have a car, but we don't really know you have a car. And then other people on social media who are seeing that you quote unquote have a car may start to feel anxious, depressed that you guys are the same age, but you're already so ahead. But in reality, there's no tangible example, hence it's not the case. So the reason why we have to develop ourselves in the real world rather than in social media is so that we can have tangible examples of things that we can apply and use in our daily life.
Amazing, amazing. I really like that aspect of tangible because what you are bringing up is that social media often highlights moments of success without the context of the hard work, without the context of the failures, without the context of the perseverance that led to that achievement. And so the tangibles are half baked because the reality, every successful person have a story of failure, not once, not twice. Every successful person have a story of disappointments. Every successful person have a story of hard work, have a story of perseverance, a story of days he or she almost gave up. And so mentorship to me, especially that I do for young people, like we are doing here, this is mentorship, is to tell them the hard truth. And I use the word hard truth because we only see success, but we don't see the process that cultivated that success. And that becomes very, very important because without a context of hard work, failures, and perseverance that led to any achievement, then the whole story is not completed. And therefore, by valuing real world efforts, then we start to understand tangibles, as we have said, but through the whole process, which means valuing real world effort over virtual appearances, we celebrate genuine success because success do have those aspects of failures more than even the aspects that you see today. And so, as Steve Jobs once said, the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Let me repeat. The people who are crazy enough to change the world are the ones who do. They are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. What does this mean? If you focus on the doers on social media, you focus on the change makers on social media, if you focus on the real stories of determination, of resilience, of those who inspire you, your life will change for the better. Because what you consume determine who you become. Afu, what says you?
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I've noticed that within this 15 minutes, you have used like 5 quotes, which I found pretty interesting. But to answer, to answer the question, I think that that's so true because if you have the motivation to change the world, which is something people can't even dream about, then you can do it. And that relates to our mentality with social media because everybody looks like they're changing the world on social media. Everybody quote unquote has a business. Everybody's an entrepreneur, and everybody is an influencer, which these are thing that should
Influencing
then
what?
yeah, exactly. So I think that through having this idea of changing the world, we can leverage social media as our friend rather than foe. And by leveraging it as our friend is to use it to network with like-minded individuals and also to develop your skills using free platforms. And to those of you guys watching, if you have any ideas you're just going to share, click the link and you can join us too.
Yeah, you brought up a very important point, which I think that we should buttress before I hand over to you to complete the next part of the segment, which is the aspect of influencers. And of course, I want us to discuss this because I also want to understand, right? Because influencers, by definition, are individuals who have the power, and underline the word power, to effect the purchasing decisions of others. When I say purchasing here, people can purchase knowledge, right? The purchasing decision of others because of their authority, their knowledge, their relationships with their audience, and what they do drive, right? If people are driving an aspect and strongly believe in it, and then have people follow them because they're inspired, then they can be called influencers. So those who call themselves influencers, they should be able to operate within specific niches. People can become influencers in teaching others how to cook. I've seen Christine here, who is an influencer, doing amazing work, inspiring young people, Ngong Christian, and actually motivating millions of people. That's an influencer. And his niche is focused on guiding and, of course, doing community work and have an NGO, the voice of the voiceless, uh, across the country in Cameroon and Africa and the world. So the point I'm trying to make here is that influencers do operate within specific niches and also have access to audiences, regardless of the numbers. It doesn't matter. If you are followed by one or two people, that's enough because those people also have followers and their followers also have followers. And sometimes I call this the invincible. You might have 10 followers, and those 10 followers have 1 million followers because they also have followers and their friends have followers. And you end up thinking you only have 10 followers on Facebook, but you are impacting 1 million plus people. So never really bothered about the numbers. So the point is this: the influencers operate within their niches and have access to audience which they engage with through the social media platforms, through their blogs or other forms of digital communication. The influence they will can be vast, affecting not just those who consume their knowledge, but also shaping trends, opinions, and even cultural norms. Why I'm trying to bring this is it's a particular aspect I want to bring. Influence can be negative or positive. But the point is, they say bad news is good news. And it seems like what we see is mostly bad news that trends, and there have been this attitude where, well, public figures or influencers spur negativity sometime to get that traffic. My question then becomes, what do you think? What aspects of those who consume whatever thing they consume should these influencers influence? Or what do you think influencers should do to then be able to correct the wrongs of society that we know today? Give any ideas you think. I really thought we should touch this.
Yeah, excellent point. I think that influencers, if they really do influence, they play a powerful role in our digital society. And having that information, we have to understand that you can positively and negatively influence people, whether you know it or not. And most influencers think they're positively influencing people, but they may be inherently negatively influencing people. So I think that the key word here is transparency. We have to be transparent. Like more because we have to be more transparent with our viewers, not necessarily us but as us as the influencers, because without that then it leaves people feeling feelings of anxiousness, depression, because they think that they're behind, but when in reality they're not. So for in order for influencers to quote unquote fix their wrongs, I think that they must first understand what they are influencing and use them and become a voice, and by becoming that voice being transparent through the process and
Yeah,
also
but
enabling their followers. or
That's correct.
influence
Yes.
to build their skills.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Enabling is a very key point. So why we are discussing this is that everybody have the power to be able to influence behavior. And anybody who can influence behavior have the ability to bring change. And change can be positive or negative. And therefore, as I've said, if anybody wants to join and contribute, I've shared the link, but you cannot join and contribute if your video is not on. So put on your video, and then I will accept you to be able to join this so that we know who is joining. I can see Ayut Dukali trying to join. Put your video on first before I can add you on the screen so that at least we can recognize you. And if we want to just build on this point, so influencers need to learn how to build trust, like Christian is doing, by maintaining authenticity, by engaging directly with their followers, which he does, and other influencers do. But authenticity to me is very, very important because it involves sharing your personal stories, sharing your experiences that resonate with your audience, and make them to be relatable because each and every one of us do have a common story with another person. And that's what I always argue with people. Be very proud of your story because you are who you are today, wherever you are, because of that story. It helped you. Whether it was good or bad, it helped you. Don't forget your past because your past is your foundation and you stand on it, and you should stand on it with pride and carry that badge of honor on your chest. It therefore means that when disclosing and talking about your past, don't be afraid of it. Interact and comment on what people say in your page. But the point I want to make before we move, I hand over to you, Afu, is the aspect of the impact of influencers. Very huge, mostly negatively. And sometimes it drives this aspect you brought up of tangibles, that lifestyles and behaviors and attitudes sometimes that are portrayed. A lot of young people do pick them up thinking that that's how life is supposed to be, which is not true because content can introduce new ideas. It can introduce good or bad practices. It can normalize wrong processes, and young people can pick up to think because a lot of people do depend on content from the internet and knowledge from the internet to enrich their repertoire of knowledge. And so if there is negativity, no matter how you say it, just always think about those who are standing behind you and listening to you. Because they also have other people who listen to them and they use your voice and your knowledge to share to them. And they use the knowledge from those people to share to others. So it's what I call a chain reaction. But let me go back to this point that we were discussing, Afu, which was how do we recalibrate our values in this world of virtual versus reality? So the question then becomes, how can we recalibrate our value to prioritize real over the virtual in this age of social media? What says you? And after that, then I hand over.
Yeah, that's a really good point because a lot of priorities are being conflicted in this dilemma, which I even tend to call an ethical dilemma. And with the evolve with AI evolving and many different data techniques being normalized in our real world, I think for us to be able to differentiate between the two and continue to develop ourselves in reality rather than virtually, because we need to first be honest with ourselves and have self-awareness and understand our strengths and weaknesses. Then once we understand our strengths and weaknesses, we can build on our strengths and also build on our weaknesses to minimize our weaknesses and maximize our strengths. And through having that, through taking these steps, then we can start, like you said, a chain reaction of spreading knowledge. And we can do this whether it's digitally or in reality. And by spreading this knowledge, we can be able
Okay,
to not only empower uh, our friends and family, but then they can influence their friends and family, and it just becomes a chain reaction.
perfect. Daniel from Zambia is joining, and you're going
Oh,
to question
cool.
him. And Daniel, Daniel, welcome to this discussion. And Zambia was kicked out of the African Nations Cup. Yeah. What says you? Welcome.
Hi.
Daniel, you're live. You're live. We can see you. Anyway, let's. I think um, he's going to get back. Yes, Afu. Back to the the aspect that we're discussing. I think he will be able to come back. I think his
Yeah, I
internet
hope
might
so.
be having issues, which is okay. I hope he will join back. Uh, but the aspect that we were talking about is very, very important, because if you look at the realities that we are talking about, they are very, very important. The aspect of recalibrating values, we've said, recalibrating our values in the digital age begins with introspection and a conscious decision to seek authenticity. And I keep using this word authenticity. It involves looking beyond the glossy surface, of social media to appreciate the struggles, the processes, the genuine interactions that define our humanity. So, by fostering connections, we can build a more authentic and fulfilling online experience. And I always tell people, if I was still a high school student or a university student or a master's student or a PhD student, I will actually be using this space to document real data each and every day, because you can actually run a questionnaire on social media and get more information than getting it from the community, because they get different opinions and people from different stratas of society. So, as Ralph Waldo Emerson eloquently put it, to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you someone else is the greatest issue that you must solve. But I put it this way: to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. What does that mean? It means that because of social media, we can perfect ourselves to be better and do something that is beyond us, that leads us to success. Yes, Daniel, how are you? Please, can you hear me?
Yes,
You
I
need to come.
can hear you too.
Excellent. Excellent. Welcome to the Mindset Spot. And this is quite very, very interesting to have you. Actually, my co-host Daniel, and your name is Daniel. So Daniel is joining from Zambia, and he's been very active and follow my page on social media. He's an advocate for young people.
That's good.
Daniel, my co-host, I'll hand over Daniel to you to put him some questions. Over.
Yeah, so it's awesome that you're on the show today. Thanks for coming. And my first question is just tell us about yourself. What have you been doing and how have you been impacting those around you? And yeah, we can go from there.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. And to begin with, happy new month. And I'm
Yeah,
very
happy
happy
New Year.
to start on this program. Initially, I normally love, more especially the social media topic, because I'm kind of the person who has been impacted, more especially by Dr. Richard and the other one, Bonga Christian. For example, last year I had been through a lot of catastrophes with my school. I had a lot of challenges, but through the course and the lesson that you used to share, it really helped me very well. And I came to understand that the way we live, it has got a great impact from the way we see, what we watch, and what we hear, and what we pay attention to. Just like the way someone says health is all about elimination and absorption, it is the same about what we hear and what we see. For example, you talked about the importance of social media, that it's an intangible thing, that we cannot live a realistic life without social media. So these things work hand in hand.
Wonderful. Afu, go
Awesome.
ahead.
Are you hearing me?
Yeah, I can hear you. That was really awesome, and I think that your interest in social media ties in really well with this episode. And my next question for you is that how have you leveraged social media? Well, we already know one way that you entered, but how do you think other young people within the African continent, based on your personal experiences, can leverage social media for good rather than leveraging it to feel more stressed?
I'm, I'm not getting you properly. Let me just maybe reconnect. Maybe my network is fluctuating somehow.
No, I think Daniel. I think there is some noise at the background, but that's not the problem. She said, as a young person, how have you leveraged social media to make a difference in your life and your community?
Oh, he's reconnecting.
Yeah. Anyway, I think he will come back.
Yeah,
He will come back. I think his network is having issues. But the point is this: for those of you who are joining us, we are talking about the topic that is so very, very important: real versus virtual, unmasking social media. And before Daniel joined, we were discussing about this topic. So over to you. And when Daniel comes back, you will take over from the questioning.
Yeah. So I think that throughout this interview we've pinned on many points. And how do you think? I think a key point I mentioned was minimize your weaknesses and maximize your strengths. So do you have some strategies that the young people can use, not even just young, just people in general, to minimize their weaknesses and maximize their strengths?
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, because the reality is that each one have got strengths and weaknesses. And the only way you can be able to understand yourself is not to focus on your weaknesses, but to focus on your strength. And I think for quite a very long time, people have been focusing on their weaknesses, and that only demoralizes them. And that is why, if you look at yourself, you must be able to understand your strength. And sometimes people have strengths that they don't know. But people then can be able to discover the strengths in someone and tell you, this is your strength, but you need to perfect it. And that's where the role of mentors come in. Social media is actually supposed to be used as a space to mentor young people, but it's used as a space for opulence, for what I call grandeur attitude, sometimes to show who is who. And I think it's an unfortunate attitude, and I will forcefully say it without any fear. We have to change it. But more importantly, the aspect of not focusing on strengths, but rather focusing on weaknesses is not good. Because your question then on how do we minimize weaknesses and maximize strengths, I decided to put that perspective, because minimizing weaknesses and maximizing strengths is a strategic approach to personal development. It is. It's a strategic approach to personal and professional development at the same time, that involves what I said earlier: self-awareness and targeted efforts, as well as continuous learning, but it needs to also have mentors in the mix. And here is just something that I think we can be able to focus us on, which is you must then be able to identify yourself on the aspects you have. That is self-assessment. You carry out a self-assessment. What does that mean? You conduct a total self-assessment to identify what are you good at, right? You can use a SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis, for those of you who are listening, is very simple. Is your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and those strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and the threats can give you a clear picture of where you stand. And then you seek feedback. And those trends are, if you are good in talking, are you using that talking to abuse people, to create negativity? Can you use that talking to communicate solutions, to inspire people, to appreciate people, to then help to market solutions? Even if you cannot produce a solution, go to someone who is sewing and use what he or she is doing, get into an agreement, and start to market what he is doing. It will mean that your skill in communicating is helping to drive a solution that will put money in your pocket, rather than coming on social media and yapping. So this is the first. Then the other aspect is, how do you then maximize your strengths? It's a very important aspect. You first of all have to identify your strength in the first place. And once you do that, you need to focus on opportunities that allow you to use your strength. For example, I have already used, if you are good at public speaking, seek rules or projects that enable you to use this skill. You have to seek. Nobody will come to you that and say, oh, you can speak, oh, Dr. Munang, you can speak. No, if I know I have that strength, I have to perfect it. And that is how people become good. You must self-believe and go out there to showcase yourself, to market yourself. You don't market yourself with negative information. People don't know that when you come and make negative statements, people might not chastise you or tell you, oh, you know. No, but behind they say, where did you talk so? This man, so you don't lose my respect. Wait, he don't talk so. You get what I'm trying to say. And then now, if you understand your strength, you develop your strengths. What does this mean? Invest in your strengths through training, practice. facing new challenges. You don't learn in comfort zone. You learn in challenges. Continuous improvement can become your strong area, and then you must utilize those strengths in team settings. When you are put in an environment, assume leadership. My friends who are listening, all of you, nobody will give you leadership. You assume it. Even if you are not a captain in your team, assume leadership. When they speak finish, you put up your hand. You said, yes, this is what I can add. That's leadership. Leadership is not given, it is taken, it is assumed. And then once you do this, play your strengths, delegate tasks when you are having that opportunity, align yourself with positivity, and make sure that you use your talent to then be able to make a difference and make people move forward. So how do you then make sure that as you are doing that, you are reducing your weaknesses? You must be able to understand yourself. It's called emotional intelligence. Sometimes you're angry, you don't speak, you hold back and ask yourself, if you were saying that to yourself, will you like it? Then you focus on developing your skill. If you don't know how to speak, start to learn how to speak. That could be a weakness. You are a timid in front of people. Go to those who can speak and ask them, how do you speak? How did you develop this communication skill? How did you reduce the timidity or the fearfulness in you when you stand in front of a crowd of 5,000 people? We all learn. Nobody was born a public speaker. And so once you do that, you adapt and then you compensate. I like to use this word, adapt and compensate. What does it mean? Find ways to adapt your weaknesses or compensate for them. What does it mean? A very simple example is, if detailed work is not your strength, use technology or tools to help you manage and mitigate errors. You see what I'm trying to say? People should be able to use the tools on the internet to check the work they do. If your English is not good, the internet is there, but your internet is not going to give you the thoughts on your head. It is you to use the thoughts in your head, put them down, and then the internet can perfect it. Go and search it on Google. Use AI tools sometimes to cross-check your work. This is okay. But the thoughts on your brain will never come from those. If you give ChatGPT to anybody today, if the person doesn't have ideas, ChatGPT will not generate ideas for you, and even what it will generate will not make sense. So the point I'm saying is, we must foster a growth mindset, embrace challenges, view challenges as opportunities to grow rather than obstacles. A growth mindset encourages resilience and adaptability for minimizing, which is key for minimizing weaknesses. Learn from failure, guys. Learn from failure. Understand that setbacks are part of the learning. And I've said this so many times. Setbacks are part of the learning, right? And anytime you fail, analyze to identify what went wrong and how you can improve it into the future. That's experience. And then stay open to feedback. I have noticed an attitude with young people, especially in the African continent. They don't love feedback that negates what they think they wanted to hear. They want you to tell them what they want to hear, not what they need to hear. It's very dangerous, and that is really an aspect that I think they need to correct. So be able to receive constructive criticisms. And for those of you who are mentors, give constructive criticism. Tell them, you did this very well, but this particular part, you have to perfect it. And this is how you perfect. Anytime you call somebody on something, provide the pathway forward. Don't just blame the young man or the young woman without giving a pathway forward. And that pathway forward, support him or her to take it forward. That's what mentorship is about. Constructive criticism is an invaluable tool. It's an invaluable asset for growth. But young people, stay open to feedback and use it as a guide for your personal and professional growth. And lastly, which I think is the most important part, you have to reflect regularly and celebrate success and progress. If you score 90 in your test, celebrate. Don't spend time bothering about the 10 you lost, but don't also forget to work hard to cover up to get that extra 10%. But celebrate the 90. Recognize and celebrate improvements that you've made. If you used to wake up at 10 a.m., now you wake up at 5. Excellent. Clap for yourself. No matter how small progress you made, celebrate. This reinforces positive behavior and keep you motivated. These are the aspects to minimize weaknesses and strengthen your strengths. Powerful.
Yeah, excellent. Before we wrap up, we have a lot of comments.
Yeah, we also have Mr. Arona. Mr. Arona, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm very good. So, where are you joining from? I will take over.
Well, I'm joining all the way from Kenya.
Oh, karibu sana, karibu sana. Yeah, mambo unaendelea vizuri?
Yeah, tunaendelea vizuri huku Kenya, labda nyinyi
Ah,
huko.
mimi niko. Asante sana. Rafiki yangu na later Daniel na jump to you. Afu.
So hi, thanks for coming. My first question, as always, is tell me about yourself and what have you been doing and how have the lesson through hashtag innovative volunteerism helped you to where you are today?
I'm a nurse by profession. Currently working as a nurse mentor
Wow.
in a number of medical colleges within this country.
That's
Wow.
good. Yeah, wow.
And when I heard about this topic, it actually caught my attention, and I felt I think I should be part of this session. I couldn't have missed this because when you look at social media, I was trying to look at the impact of social media on the youth in our country, and I still feel exposure to some critical or vital information
Right.
is key because whatever they consume or get from social media communicates, and once you communicate.
Right.
The recipient of what you're communicating has a room or freedom to interpret it their own way. So interpretation is key here. As you
Right.
communicate, try to figure out what is the impact of what I'm communicating to somebody who is in Nigeria, because this is social media.
Mm.
Yeah.
So we need to have that mindset or the perceived correct interpretation of particular messages or information that is shared on social media, so that we try and guide the interpreter, whoever is going to read this context. This is the intention. So we are
Wonderful.
spreading and releasing a lot of information on social media without providing a clear guidance on the correct interpretation. So we leave the audience with a freedom which is not utilized well.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Number
that's a
one.
really good point, and congrats on all the work you've been doing. I'm sure you're doing great. And
Yeah.
how have you understood social media from, for example, like a professional perspective? And have you seen that the irrationale in social media is not only limited to the youth but also professionals?
Well, in terms of sharing professional knowledge and let's say content, social media has done quite a lot
Mm.
because it becomes easy for the youth to even learn through, let's say, TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook. They're able to access a lot of information from, let's say, research. When they are doing their research, they can access some reference material from social media. And also, communication is key. There are those who can, like, I think a few days ago, some of my students were having a discussion through social media. They get to discuss a number of topics related to their field, regardless of where they are in the country. You can be a miles away from your friend, but you still can access your friend through social media and those discussions. So social
Wonderful.
media, yes, yes.
Yeah, Mr. Aaron, I mean, this is a very important point you brought up. And I think, first of all, thank you for the work you are doing as a nurse. I know how, without you guys, I mean, society would have really been in a mess. And nurses work more than many other people in different professions. And so,
Yeah.
just to say, we recognize that and we appreciate.
Right.
Thank you for a point you have brought up. I mean, I happen to be in Kenya, so I know the context. And you are very right. Kenya, in Africa, I think Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, to an extent, Ghana are actually top when it comes to social media usage in the continent.
Sure.
And so
Right.
it couldn't have been much better to have someone like you who is not just a traditional social media user, but from the perspective of a profession that is so crucial. So my question to you is, from interacting with those on social media and understanding that bad news is good news for consumers most of the time, how have you navigated, or what have you seen that can make you to tell all the nursing information or information that can help people out there from the nursing perspective to help them? And have there been uptake of this information? Because, as I've said earlier, negative news sometimes looks like good news, and sometimes when you are bringing substance, the uptake is not always as rapid or even palatable. You would post it and you get one like, which is okay, but if it's negative news, 1 minute you get 5 million likes. What says you?
All right. I think from where I see it,
Right,
negative news seems to be a little more attractive than positive news.
right,
Yeah.
That is the funny thing with the social media. I don't know why negative news attracts attention of a majority of the social media users in relation
right.
to the positive ones. So we are used to criticizing people more than recommending or supporting important information. I think we need to change majority of, let's say, mentees' mindset. They need to
Right.
change their mindset and pay attention to whatever has a positive impact in the society instead of concentrating on the negative, because we waste a lot of time focusing on criticizing individuals instead of correcting them. So if we correct those who are wrong, we'll be, I think, impacting positively to the society instead of wasting the whole day sharing critics and criticizing whatever they did.
Yeah, let me just, that's a very good point, correcting. The attitude of people sometimes not accepting corrections. And I think earlier on, when I was discussing with my co host, we were saying that feedback sometimes is always viewed by young people and even elderly people as negative. But
Mhm.
the attitude to get feedback and process seems not to be the norm in society. That yes, no matter how good you are, you might not see your back, as they say. There are some blind spots you might not see. And therefore, if you get information, process it. Not all information is good, but feedback should be listened to. What do you think needs to be done for young people to start taking feedback positively? You want to guide, they don't want to listen. You want to move them forward, they feel they know. And they underestimate your experience. Now, for example, you are a nurse, you've been in this profession, you've trained in this profession. Somebody just get up in the morning and said, I'll be a nurse tomorrow. Oh, and you want to guide, he tells you he knows more than you. Because maybe he probably just from WhatsApp saw a video from somewhere and he or she becomes an expert. Yes, I think after this, we will take over.
I think we should pay more attention on mentorship and
Right.
guidance,
Yeah.
right from a primary level, because if we don't guide the young ones on how to perceive the negative and the positive information, they will definitely pick or take their own direction. So
Definitely.
guidance here is key. Guidance here is key, and we should train them on how to focus on vital information, whatever that brings positivity and progress on the table only.
Perfect.
Yeah, great. And I think we have a comment from Serene Zati, and it says because we have a negative look of life more often, it's easy to mass attention toward negative news. It's prudent as young adults we develop the habit of having a positive look on life. And that relates to my question regarding digital footprint. So we talked a lot about how negative news sometimes is positive, and that's one of the quote unquote flaws of social media. But what are your thoughts on digital footprint and within the professional space? How can digital footprint not only be negative but have positive effects as well?
Yes, Aruna, did you hear the question? She said,
Uh,
talk about digital footprint. I don't know whether you got it.
I didn't get you. Kindly repeat
I
your
will
question,
repeat.
Oh,
please.
yeah. So I said that how has digital footprint impact? What are your thoughts on it? And how do you think it can impact not only negatively but positively within the professional space?
Right, digital footprint or digital world has a lot of impact, both the positive and the negative, because it has actually eased or fastened access to information. Because I don't know which country are you?
Oh,
Which country are you from?
I'm
We are
Cameroon.
Cameroonians.
Yeah, you're in Cameroon and I'm in Kenya. We
Yes,
can have, I think we're having this discussion courtesy of the digital world, right?
Yeah.
Well, the digital world has had a lot of impact, and especially the medical field, among other business fields, because of ease of access of information. So
excellent.
it has actually reduced distance from wasting time traveling all the way from Kenya to Cameroon. We can still meet on a social media platform somewhere and discuss vital information.
Yeah.
Amazing. Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Runa. Let me get to Alaji. Alaji, salam alaikum.
Oh, Walaikum Salam, Bel. Munanga, how are you? How are you
Excellent.
doing? Happy New Year.
Yeah, happy New Year to you, and thank you for joining live. I mean, and thanks for following, and we appreciate your good work. Yeah,
Yeah.
what says you? You are a young man joining, and Africa have over 65% of the population young people. Do you think Africa is winning with the young people?
Yeah, but let me say, in the case of Africa with young people, um, before compared to now, let me say on the 20th century compared to the 21st century now, is there there um there was a little amount of progress, more especially
Yeah,
when it
Alaji,
comes
maybe
to.
you can increase your volume. I can't hear very much. I don't know whether I'm the only one who is not hearing.
Yeah, I'm getting you. Come again with the question.
Yeah, that's fine. The point was, do you think young people are doing great? But maybe you will just introduce yourself, where you're connecting from, so that our viewers can get to
That's good.
know where you're connecting from.
That's good. That's good. That was what I was expecting you. I'm
Yeah, but I
Alaji
threw,
Usman Kam-
I threw the one that we usually call it a hot punch, just to go
Yeah,
straight to the point and put you in
e-
the kitchen. Yes, go ahead.
exactly. I'm Alaji Usman Kamara. I'm a Sierra Leonean by nationality, you know, residing in Waterloo, a city very close to Freetown City. I'm an environmental advocate and information and communication development specialist.
Wonderful. And you are doing a very good job. You are a very good fan, and I appreciate. So, Afu, over to you to ask you questions.
Yeah, so yeah, thanks for joining. It's great to have you here, and we're looking forward for your insights. And how has social media impacted advocacy? And how do you think your advocacy would have been different if social media wasn't a tool that you could have used?
Okay. Thank you very much, Daniela. Like for for mine, over the years working for Conservation Society of Sierra Leone and an environmental advocacy institution, working on research, um, doing advocacy online has created has created great impact towards my work. Um, One, it connects me and that of our partners, connects me and it connects me with our partners, knowing what interventions we are doing and give latest updates about our environmental interventions, and also it connects it connects me with our partners, like government, in the government aspect, like partnering with environmental ministry, partnering with environmental civil society institutions for them to team up and take up a move that will help to salvage the situation at hand. Like, for example, I'm currently working on a project um, around a lake, Lake Sunflower. Lake Sunflower is one of the mountainous lakes in West Africa. It's a very unique lake. Yeah, it's rich with gold mining. We are facing so many challenges. So one way that we team up with partners is through by online advocacy and face-to-face dialogue, engagement, etc., etc.
Yeah, awesome.
So
I think that that's a good point. You connect with partners through that brand. And that also relates to digital footprint. Because let's say your digital footprint wasn't amazing, then partners wouldn't want to work with you. So through creating a digital footprint and so your digital footprint would be a history of advocacy. How do you think your digital footprint has positively impacted the work you're doing now?
come again.
Alaji, I think before you go ahead, let me just add to that question from Afu on digital footprint, which is a lot of young people go to the internet, to social media, and say things there that abuse government officials, right? Abuse young people, and that information stays there forever. Even if they delete it, it's already there in the server of Facebook, for example. What advice do you have to give to them? Just following up on what I have said. Maybe you can combine and answer the two questions since we are running out of time.
Exactly. Well, when you are when you are when you are using the social media, that is when you are using the virtual means of communication, you are meeting with millions, thousands of people. Like for example, meeting Dr. Munanga, I joined your forum last year, and based on your mentorship, the quotes, many quotes that you normally post first thing in the morning before starting your work, at those quotes and mentorship has helped to shape up my work. So like connecting online will help you to fast track and also add more mentorship towards what you are doing or what you are up to do. You understand? Like for example, this morning I saw one post that you sent, which talks about the analysis of yesterday match, Nigeria versus Angola. And that post I normally share it in other forums. In fact, they admire about it, and I said there is a mentor that I normally follow online who did this analysis. People admire so much. They said, well, this type of people, if you, like for example, like for Sierra Leone, some of my colleagues in Sierra Leone, they say if you have this type of people in Sierra Leone, that will help shape up the mindset of youth. I said, of course, So like using the social media doesn't mean that it's an opportunity for you to say any negative thing, because it will be very difficult to be deleted. Even you can delete it. You do somebody who posts, you can delete it. But mind you, the social media that you are using is the gateway.
Right.
There are people who are managing that gateway. If you said something negative about Dr. Richard, who is staying in Cameroon, whilst I'm in Sierra Leone, I see that, there will be no way Dr. Richard to sue me to court or to indict me for what I posted in the social media about him, right? Which of course you have the shortest means. There are ways you can take steps against me, as long as you have the evidence. So using the social media will help you into good mentorship, will helps you to broaden your research findings, and it can also help you to to add more value to your education. Like for example, I'm currently on leave, staying. I'm with my son, as you can see. Whilst immediately I got the alert, because normally when I connect it, immediately when he comes online, I will get the alert. So automatically I will go all out to follow, because I don't want to be absent on what you are coming up with. So I'm so curious about your programs. So I decided to wake up and say, oh, let me connect with Dr. Richard. Maybe today I will have the opportunity of conversing with you, because so many times, the other time I also shared my communication with you, my WhatsApp line, so that I will have some guide from you, because I'm opting to pursue my master's. I did information and communication development
Excellent.
at the university. Yeah.
Amazing.
So this is a great
Congratulations.
Yes, using the social media is not a means of misusing it.
Yes,
an
awesome,
opportunity for
awesome,
you to
awesome.
make it's an opportunity for you to make more ways so that you can learn more and meet with so many dignitaries.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Okay, I like it. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I like the way you answer the digital footprint on that. What you say on social media will, even if you delete it, there are ways you can also be tracked down elsewhere, and that is very good information for the young people. I think, Afu, so we are running up now, and Afu, I think you go with a question to Mr. Arona, and then we run up, and then I'll get to Alaji, and then we say our last word. Yes, Mr. Arona.
Well,
Yeah,
I've,
yeah.
I've
So my last question for you is that how have you been able to minimize your weaknesses and maximize your strengths, not only in the professional setting, but with also through developing, because obviously to be a nurse you need like biology, chemistry, but what skills do they not talk about, like your soft skills like determination, hard work, things like that? What skills have you developed through this profession and through mentoring the youth, which aren't necessarily technically related?
thank you so much for the question. I have a number of ways in which I have been able to manage my weaknesses. And I've trained a few individuals to also use the same skills I've used to manage my weaknesses. And one thing is that to know your weakness, you can't manage that which you don't know. You must recognize that this is the weakness that I have as an individual, and then you go ahead and address it. And the best way to address your weakness is to find somebody who can support you. Find a nice support or social group that can support you strengthen your weakness, because sometimes the weakness you could be having might be the breakthrough, because that is the only thing you need to do. Once you strengthen your weakness, you realize success. Let's say you are weak in mathematics and you're a high school student. You can't drop math because it is a mandatory subject. So you have no option. The best option here is to recognize that you have a weakness or you're weak in mathematics, and maybe visit your math teacher to help you, guide you on how to strengthen that subject. So without seeking guidance and just asking support
Excellent.
from an
Great.
individual, becomes
Thanks
a
a lot.
challenge to address that. Yes.
Right.
Awesome. I think you brought up a good point because I know I'm in high school right now, and a lot of my friends and people, if they're not strong in a particular subject, they consider dropping it. And they always ask me, should I
Mhm.
drop it? I say no, because you never know where you're going to end up. And it's not good to give up just because you're not good at something. And you should continue to strive to be the best, especially in things that you're not good at, so that you can have learning opportunities and be a well rounded person.
Right.
Yeah.
And before we wind up, I have a question for you, please. Am I allowed to ask a question, please?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yes.
I was looking at access to social media information in regards to age bracket. When is an individual allowed to access some critical information from social media? Because social media, to some extent, it doesn't discriminate the age when somebody should access this and this information. Because I was looking at as a medical profession, when a physician is prescribing a drug is prescribed in terms of age and even sometimes height and weight, so that we don't overdose our clients. So social media could be overdosing the society. Is it really is it really availing that which is needed as at that age of whoever is consuming what is shared on social media? The dosage.
Well, I think that it depends on maturity because
Right.
it could be a 12-year-old who is more mature and can navigate social media better than a 50-year-old. So I think just the way the individual is trained and their guidance from parental teachers, mentors, and yeah, I think that. But too much of everything can be a challenge. So by moderating social media and having a schedule where you're not overdosing on one thing, so that you can be engaged in social media but using it for the right reasons and not becoming addicted.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yes, that's good. Let me just add to that, Mr. Arona. So the age at which, like she has said, she's correct, but the age at which individuals are allowed to access social media, because if you are registering at the platforms, there's usually an age. that is
He's like
given,
13. I'm not.
depending. Yeah, it's 13 years old. They have set a minimum of 13 years. But you know, some people, there's no watchdog watching you. A kid of 10 can still put 13 and it goes through. So the point then becomes also the responsibility of the parents to ensure and also monitor their kids on what they are doing, even if they are 13. So, like I have said, overdose of everything is a problem, just like with medicine. So the enforcement of this age restriction can be challenging because of the liberty that anybody can get a mobile phone with internet and do anything with it. So I think the point then becomes, while social media platforms require new users to provide their birth date when signing up and agree to their terms of service, which includes the minimum age requirement, in this case 13, verifying the accuracy of this information is difficult. Like
Very
I've said,
difficult.
so as a result of that, it is not uncommon for children under the age of 18 to then have access to social media, which is a big problem. So as a result of that, what I think needs to happen is that we all need to be vigilant. And the best way to do, like I did for Afu, is don't make them shy of social media, but guide them what is good and what is bad, and warn and monitor so that they engage with it to learn and start to know that there are certain things they cannot do. When you keep them off it, the day they have the opportunity to get in there, they will go mostly for negative information and they will think that that's what they have been missing. So, though some social media platforms have developed versions of their services that are specifically designed for children, even TV stations for that matter, offering more stringent parental controls and content restriction to create a safer online environment. For example, Facebook offers Messenger Kits, and which is designed for children and give parents oversight and control over their child's contacts and interactions. But despite this effort, as I've said, the responsibility often falls on parents and guidance to monitor and regulate their children's access to social media, ensuring that they are not only adhering to the age restrictions, but also engaging with content that is appropriate to their age and maturity level. So that's what I would say, building on what Afu has already said. But that was a very good question that I think one of the excellent question that is there. So at the end of the day, it is essential for parents to educate their children about online safety, online privacy, and the importance of responsible social media use, and introduce them and guide them so that they can actually be part and parcel of doing what is right.
Well, sorry, in addition to that, so how do we treat
Yes.
curiosity? Because as you guide your children on which sites to access and which one not to, how do you manage curiosity now from the Samsung kids? Uh-huh.
Yeah, you see, the reality is that you will face this curiosity. It's just like curiosity of everybody on anything. You say don't go out at night, they want to go out because they think you're hiding something. So I think treating curiosity of a child involves three. What I call two. I usually say it involves a thoughtful, encouraging approach that nurtures their natural desire to learn and explore. So when you restrict them without reason, then you are actually giving them reason to do it.
Exactly, exactly.
so
The
so
answer
so
is
I think
a restriction with reasons. Exactly. Thank you.
with reason,
Right.
yes,
Uh-huh.
exactly.
Good.
And the other aspect is, so you encourage questions, right? So I think one of the aspect is, um, let's provide answers that are age appropriate and don't shy away from exploring topics that we may not want to talk about, but talk about them. And this way can be an excellent opportunity for them to learn and know the do's, the don'ts. I remember Afu, who is here, used to ask me, why are you telling me not to do it? I'll explain to her why she should not do it and why she should do it. And I think that learning opportunity also helps them to know, okay, this is the reason you cannot do it. But when they just say no, you cannot, then without giving reason, it can actually become the reason they will do it.
Good.
That was a
Right.
very, very interesting
Thank
conversation,
you.
Mr. Arun. I think we have to round up now. What will be your last word, advice to anybody who is listening as we round up? It's been an amazing conversation. Mr. Ronald, over to you.
Well, this is an important area of discussion,
Yeah.
and we need to pay a lot of attention to this because with the changes in technology,
Yeah.
and advancement in education with the emergence of a lot of electronic gadgets that can give access to multiple social media platforms.
Right.
We need to focus so much on guidance and mentorship and
Yes.
give the right information. And above all, we should teach the society to know that difficulties, failure, and kind of perseverance is the
Right.
key. And we need to accept that
Yeah.
along the way you must go through ups and downs for you to emerge victorious.
Correct.
And as you said, history is part of what? The process and part of the story.
Correct.
So thank
Wonderful.
you.
Wonderful. Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Aruna. I mean, it's been
Yeah,
amazing, and
thank
I
you.
can say you've done well by coming with your profession, but also with your knowledge of this social media. And I think
Thank
it's
you.
been a pleasure having you. And a lot of people and viewers have learned, as you can see on the comments. I mean, they're just amazingly happy and excited. For your last word.
Yeah, so thank you for coming. Thank you for your insights. We appreciate them. They were very educating. And for those of you guys watching, whether you're here physically or you'll watch this next time as we restream it multiple times, thank you for watching, and we hope that you learned something. And always remember that digital footprint should be able to communicate your strength and passions rather than communicating negativity.
Excellent. Thank you very much for all of you who joined in today. And thanks to our contributors and co-hosts, our four contributors, Alaji, Mr. Aruna. It's been quite very, very inspiring. And as we run up today's journey through this discussion titled Real versus Virtual, Unmasking Social Media, is not just an opportunity. It's an opportunity for each and every one of us. And I think from the listening, we have learned not just nurturing the boundless curiosity of children to understanding the age appropriate engagement with social media, but also to what we can share and what we can be able to do in leveraging social media. We have uncovered the complexities behind the glittering facade of online platforms, as I would call it, and discuss the pivotal role that influencers actually could play in the lives of those who follow them. And we've explored in this conversation today the strategies that can actually be put in place, not only to enrich ourselves, but to foster our ability to enhance our skills. So we extend our heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you, all our viewers and contributors, for joining us in this enlightening conversation. And so your engagement and your insights have made this exploration not just only possible, but deeply rewarding. So together, as we move forward, let's understand that social media presents us with an opportunity. But at the same time, it also provides a way in which we can be able to make changes in society, to encourage one another. Your engagement and insights will continuously be valued. And together we can navigate through these important topics next time, shedding light more on how we can call all approaches that are needed in this digital world to enhance our learning environment with wisdom, with care, as well as with a keen sense of curiosity. Thank you for tuning in. Your presence and participation have not just made it possible, but we've all learned together. Until next time, continue to question, continue to explore, and continue to cherish the real connections and learning that social media offers. Thank you very much, and bye bye for now.